Welcome to another edition of the Wellness Talk podcast. I'm George Batista, your host and your wellness advocate. Of course, Wellness Talks is a show that goes over the latest in health, healing, nutrition, fitness, everything we can do to take responsibility for our health and do it in a natural, non-toxic way. We have a lot of information to share today, including from George Mason University, how pre- and postnatal B12 vitamins improve breast milk vitamin B12 levels, which support infant brain development. This is brand new information. This was a study where they gave pregnant women prenatal vitamins, and then after they gave them postnatal B12 as well, and they wanted to see how it affected the breast milk B12 levels. And this is something I've talked about, for a long time on this show, right? If you're thinking of having kids, obviously being on really good, high quality B12 and or prenatal vitamins in general is really something you need to take a look at. So we'll dive into the study and we'll talk about B12 levels and exactly why this is so important. Then from there, from Jillian Levy, symptoms of electrolyte imbalance plus how to solve it. So we'll dive into that. Okay, remember, electrolyte imbalance is not specifically just for athletes or anything like that, even though they are at higher risk, obviously, but it could be for anyone, people who are on the go, people who are who work out on a regular basis, who are just, regularly active. So we're going to talk about the symptoms of electrolyte imbalance. We're going to talk about what electrolytes are and how important they are and what they do and what are the most common ones. And then we're going to talk about what you should be looking for and how to solve electrolyte imbalance moving forward. So we're going to, again, do a deep dive into that. So I think, you should definitely pay attention, especially if you are very, very active. Then from there, we're going to do a little bit of a deep dive into a specific supplement from Wellness Resources. This is a closer look at GI and Muscle Helpers nutritional power. So great supplement from Wellness Resources. So we're going to dive into exactly what it is and what it contains and why you should, take a look at it. Of course, the latest studies and all the ingredients that are in GI Muscle Helper and how they work and what are all the latest studies on it. So we'll dive into that. And again, great supplement for you guys to take a look at to keep your gut in balance, just to keep your overall health in balance. So that's what we got on tap for you today. Of course, go to georgebatista.com. Check out all the articles that we go over because it's very, very important that you, take a look at it, share, with everyone, like, share, and subscribe as always. And make sure you check us out on the platforms. We're on the Rumble platform. We're on an Apple and Spotify and all the audio platforms, as well as Facebook and those types of things. And, they haven't banned us yet. So, but make sure you check that out, okay? And, of course, if you want these articles in your email address, make sure you sign up for the newsletter so you can get those every week. And, of course, you can support the show, as always. Go to the Support the Show link on the front of the website and give whatever you can because, of course, that goes directly back into this show. And thank you for all of you who support the show every single week. You really make this show important. You really help to grow the show, and that's what we're trying to do, right? Worldwide show. It's getting bigger and bigger every single week, and that's the goal. All right, guys. So without further ado, let's get started on our articles for the week. So first, from George Mason University, how pre- and postnatal B12 vitamins improve breast milk vitamin B12 levels, which support infant brain development. Okay, so let's dive into it. B12 obviously is extremely important, especially in a growing, an infant, right? Or, let's say if you're looking to become pregnant, you have to make sure that you have enough B12. You have to make sure you have enough of the vitamins in general. Why is that? Because obviously, when a woman's pregnant now, your nutrition really gets split, right? It's between you and the baby now. So you have to take in more nutrition to make sure you both have optimal nutrition, okay? So, B12 is very important to help, the baby's brains and bodies develop and grow, obviously, okay? Babies get their B12 from their mothers and can have low B12 levels if their mothers also have low B12 levels. So keep that in mind, okay? Especially during pregnancy and breastfeeding. Now, the vitamin B12 levels of infancy strongly depend on maternal levels. And again, this is something I've talked about a lot on this show. So even after the first 6 months of life, breast milk may continue to be a crucial source of B12 for infants. Now, pregnant and lactating women are at exceptionally high risk for B12 deficiency due to the increased nutritional demands as they, provide the micronutrient levels for themselves and their babies. And again, this is what I was talking about, right? It gets split into two. And this is why you really do not want to risk being deficient, okay? Because you want to have enough for both. Now, let's talk about the studies that they have here. So they found in this study, which was led by the Mason assistant professor in the College of Public Health and Dongqing Wang, they found that pregnant women who took high doses of oral B12 supplements prior to delivery experienced short-term benefits on the levels of B12 in their breast milk. However, women who took high doses of vitamin B12 supplements during lactation experienced these benefits for a longer period of time. And this is what they say, and I'm going to quote here because there's a specific quote that one of the investigators talk about. It says, "Our findings underscore the importance of prenatal vitamins for short-term benefits in breast milk and postnatal vitamins for more sustained impacts on B12 adequacy in breast milk. Both prenatal and postnatal supplements support healthy growth and development in the baby." Very important. Now, why is this important? For a few reasons, okay? So again, we talked about how it's important to have prenatal vitamins. You have to do it. Now, part of the issue with when a woman is pregnant, for example, right? They go to their doctor and they go through all the tests and that type of thing. A lot of doctors put their patients or their pregnant patients on some kind of supplements or some kind of prenatal vitamins, which is fine. But again, sometimes those vitamins, because again, you're getting them from a doctor, and really unfortunately, a lot of doctors don't know a lot about nutrition. They may just take whatever prenatal vitamins are there. They think they're good, and they may not necessarily be good, okay? So the first thing you got to take a look at is exactly what kind of prenatal vitamins am I taking, and are they the best forms? Again, vitamin form is extremely crucial, and I've talked about this over and over. Form of vitamin is extremely important. So when you look at your supplements, take a look at the back. You're going to look at the ingredients, and next to each ingredient, so when it says B12 or when it says folate or whatever it is, next to it, there should be parentheses, and it should tell you what the form is. That's going to be the key to how your body's going to absorb that. That's going to be the key at whether it's an activated form or inactivated form of B12 or folate, for example. So this is something you have to take a look at, okay? Next. Now, why is B12 so important? Because if you are lacking in B12, for example, if a pregnant woman is lacking B12 or somebody's lacking in B12 in general, that could lead to what's called pernicious anemia, but it can also lead to a lot of other things, right? Many, many studies now, and there's more coming out that are talking about having inadequate levels of B12 that eventually affect your brain, right? Okay, because B12 is very, very important for the brain. So if you have inadequate B12, that can affect your cognition. And there's many studies that actually show that low B12 levels can increase your risk of things like dementia, cognitive decline, and even Alzheimer's. Lots of studies that are coming out on that, okay? And B12 is important for detoxifying heavy metals, leads, and these types of things. So it's kind of a dual purpose there, so it's very, very important. Also, we also have to take a look at something called methylation. I've talked about it on this show many times, right? A good part of the population, I've seen maybe 50 to 60% that they've talked about that actually have what's called a methylation problem, or it's also called a genetic polymorphism. This is a gene or a defective gene, okay? And my wife is actually one of those that has that. Now, she didn't find that out till later in life. And the way she found that out was because she used to work in the public school system in New York City. And the public school system is, they're not known for being the healthiest school system, unfortunately. They have a lot of heavy metals and these types of things, a lot of asbestos and all this type of stuff that is in the schools. And we would go to our functional medicine doctor in the city, in New York City, when we lived there. And she kept testing very high for lead levels. And so that doctor did a whole bunch of tests, and one of the things he tested for was methylation, because he kind of put two and two together, and he realized that her body was really not detoxifying these heavy metals. And what he found that she had a methylation problem, meaning that she wasn't methylating properly. Now, what does that mean? It means that you have to remember that when you take in things like folate, okay, folic acid from your food, when you take in B12 from your food, that type of thing, right? It's not in an activated form when you take it from food. So your body has to take it in. There has to be a conversion that happens in your body. Okay, you have enzymes that convert it from an inactive form to an active form. Once those vitamins become active, right, and they go through the entire system, and there's a whole matrix that goes on here, then they can do what they need to do. There's enzymes and all these things that start to help them to do what they need to do. That's why they're called coenzymes. Vitamins tend to be coenzymes. That's what they're called. So if you don't have a problem with methylation, and you can actually convert, and there's a whole cycle that converts here and that makes it work properly, then you have a great detoxification pathway. You don't have a problem with heavy metals. You don't have a problem with what's called homocysteine. Now, homocysteine, if it's an inflammatory marker in your body. If homocysteine levels are high, okay, and that can happen when you have a methylation problem, or you just have low B12, for example. If your homocysteine levels are high, this can lead to heart problems. This can lead to a lot of inflammation in the heart, blood vessels, all these types of things. It can lead to higher risk of heart attack and stroke and these types of things. So you want to make sure that homocysteine levels are low. How can you do that? Making sure you have enough folate, enough B12. So again, so you have the methylation problem is another thing as well. So what I suggest, again, going back to B12 and going back to pregnancy, if you are not sure, you may not be sure. There are people that are running around, today who have no idea if they have a methylation problem, if they have a defective gene or polymorphism or whatever. So I always suggest, when you take your supplements, take them in the activated form. So when you look at your B12 supplement, you want to see next to it methylcobalamin or adenosylcobalamin. Those are the active forms. So your body does not have to convert them. They're already active. They already can do their work. When you look at folic acid, okay, on the bottle it should say folate or methylfolate or methyl tetrahydrofolate. It might say either one of those, okay? But those, again, are the active forms. So when you're taking a look at your prenatal vitamins, you also want to make sure of those same things, because it's going to help you, and it's also going to help your infant, your child, or your newborn, or whatever, what have you, okay? So these are just some things to take a look at. This is why B12 is extremely important. If you didn't have B12, if your B12 or your folate was low, you would have severe problems. You can die if you don't have enough of these things, right? Very, very important. Now, B12 is also made in the gut by something called intrinsic factor in the gut bacteria. So, so it can be made there as well, but you still need to take it in. Now, keep in mind that it is water soluble. So again, your body will get rid of it. But it's not easy to be B12 deficient, but at the end of the, especially if you're eating meat and that type of thing, but eventually you can be if you're not doing the right thing. So my suggestion, supplements, active form of supplements, make sure you take them. And again, I talked to Dr. Michelle Perro, who's one of the leading pediatricians, in the U.S., probably the world, and she talked about detoxing before you even think about becoming pregnant. She says 6 months to even a year detoxing. That includes good food. That includes doing everything to detox. That includes supplements. That detoxing heavy metals, chelation, whatever needs to be done. Okay, so, but this shows here in the going back to the study, for example, this shows here that the prenatal vitamins, they don't really talk about which prenatal vitamins or what forms of B12 were in these supplements, so that's a thing. But at least whatever form of B12 they used, it still worked because the breast milk levels were high when they took them before and after. And when the baby was breastfeeding, the baby was also getting a good amount of B12. So again, to those people who say that vitamins are a waste of time or a waste of money, check out studies like this, because this is showing that the B12 levels, when you take them in vitamin form, the levels get high enough that it can help you and your newborn. So just some things to think about in terms of, again, if you are thinking of becoming pregnant in the future. Okay, next, from Jillian Levy, this is symptoms of electrolyte imbalance plus how to solve it. So we're going to dive into electrolytes and why it's important. So those of you, whether you're an athlete or whether you are just an active person, pay attention to this, because we're going to go over signs and symptoms. We're going to go over what the electrolytes, the important electrolytes are, and we're going to go over how you can either solve the issue or you can prevent the issue from happening. Okay, so what are electrolytes? Okay, electrolytes are certain nutrients or chemicals present in your body that have very, very important functions. Okay, their main functions are from regulating your heartbeat to allowing your muscles to contract so you can move. Okay, and they're basically like an electrical current, pretty much. You have to remember that there's electrical current throughout your body, right? There's electrons, electrical current. There's this whole thing that's happening. That's what we are. We're kind of electrical beings, if for lack of a better term. Okay, now what are the big electrolytes that are found in the body that you hear about? Okay, calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, phosphate, and chloride, right? Those are the really big ones, and the ones we hear, for the most part. Okay, but if you have a severe electrolyte imbalance, this can be so damaging to your body that it can eventually be potentially deadly. So we'll talk about it. So what are some of the major roles, okay, that electrolytes have within the body? Okay, so we'll take a look at them. For example, calcium. Calcium helps with muscle contractions, helps with nerve signaling, helps with blood clotting, cell division, and maintaining bones and teeth, right? A lot of people know it for that. A lot of people didn't know about nerve signaling and blood clotting, but yes, very important for that as well, okay? Potassium. Potassium is important for helping maintain stable blood pressure levels, regulating heart contractions, and helping with muscle functions. Magnesium. Magnesium is needed for muscle contractions, proper heart rhythms, nerve functioning, bone building, strength, just strength in general, reducing anxiety, digestion, and keeping a stable protein fluid balance. Then we have sodium. Sodium helps maintain fluid balance, which is needed for muscle contractions and also, again, help with nerve signaling. And then we have chloride, which helps to overall maintain fluid balance. So you're kind of getting the theme here that all these things work together for nerve signaling, muscle contraction, muscle function, and balance. Okay, so now electrolytes are given their name because they literally have, again, an electrical charge, right? So they separate into positive and negative charged ions when they're dissolved in water. Okay, so that's kind of what happens, and that's what happens throughout the body. Now, what are some of the common causes of electrolyte imbalance? So we'll go over those. So some of the basic causes are pretty much due to fluid loss, which can stem from a lot of things. So for example, being sick with symptoms including vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, high fevers, that can all produce fluid loss or dehydration. This is why it's important if you have some kind of stomach virus, something like that, or again, you have diarrhea, you're throwing up, that type of thing, you got to keep hydrated because you're losing so much fluid that can throw it off. Okay. Poor diet that is low in essential nutrients, that's a given. Trouble absorbing nutrients from food, like malabsorption due to intestinal problems. So if you're not let's say you have an overgrowth of candida, you have all different types of digestive issues and you're not digesting your nutrients properly, that can lead to it. Hormone imbalances and endocrine disorders can lead to it. Taking certain medications, including those for treating cancer, heart disease, and hormonal disorders. Taking antibiotics, over-the-counter diuretics, or medications or corticosteroids, corticoid hormones. kidney disease or damage. Okay, you have to remember that the kidneys play a critical role in regulating chloride in your blood, as well as blood pressure as well, and flushing out potassium, magnesium, and sodium. And also, if you're on chemotherapy, right? If you have cancer, you're on chemotherapy treatments, which can cause side effects of low blood calcium, and calcium deficiency also lead to changes in blood potassium levels and other electrolyte deficiencies. So all those things can lead to, irregularities in electrolyte balance. Now, what are some of the signs and symptoms of this? Well, depending on the type of electrolyte imbalance you experience, a number of symptoms can occur. So let's take a look at those. So the symptoms can include muscle aches, spasms, twitches, and weakness, restlessness, anxiety, frequent headaches. I see a lot of that. Feeling very, very thirsty, insomnia, fever, heart palpitations, and irregular heartbeats. That's a big one, okay? Specifically with AFib. A lot of people are running around with AFib, and a lot of that, I would say, I would venture to say, and again, I'm not a physician, but I would venture to say, because I've helped people who had AFib on the nutritional side, potassium and magnesium levels are critical in terms of dealing with AFib. Okay, critical. When you get those things in balance, and a lot of people are running around with a magnesium deficiency. So if you get those things in balance, it tends to help big time in, again, irregular heartbeats and AFib and that type of thing. Also, digestive issues like cramps, constipation or diarrhea, confusion or trouble concentrating, bone disorders, joint pain, blood pressure changes in appetite or body weight, fatigue, numbness, and pain in joints, dizziness, especially when standing up suddenly, and rhabdomyolysis, which is breakdown of muscle. And those of you who are athletes, let's say you're on the basketball court, or whatever kind of athlete you are, if you're seeing a lot of muscle twitching or you're sweating a lot, these types of things, those are many signs, or extreme fatigue. It definitely can be signs and symptoms of again, electrolyte imbalance. So just something to keep in mind for those of you who are very active. Okay, so other signs of experiencing of electrolyte imbalance that can be a bit more of something to think about. Okay, so for example, changes in heartbeat, and the reason a lot of times again that happens is when potassium rises to very high levels, a condition called hyperkalemia can develop. Okay, you have hypo and hyper, but hyperkalemia is when your potassium gets too high. Hypo is when it gets too low. So this interferes with the normal signals from the nerves to muscles, which can result in muscles becoming weak and tingly and numb. And at the same time, high potassium can also impact your heartbeat, which can cause rapid symptoms that make you feel anxious. Okay, so again, it could be too low that can cause it. Okay, or too low magnesium to potassium that can cause it, or too high potassium that can cause it. So again, imbalance, right? Other things, again, anxiety and trouble sleeping. So again, if you're feeling always tired, low magnesium levels or low potassium levels can cause trouble getting a good night's sleep. Okay, and again, can cause mental disturbances and this type of thing, which can lead to trouble sleeping as well. Okay. Another thing, muscle spasm. When dehydration occurs or potassium and magnesium levels fall abruptly, again with athletes, for example, muscle weakness and spasms are usually some of the first signs. This is what I was talking about before, okay? Next, digestive issues. The muscles within your digestive tract, you have to think about this, for example, they need to contract properly, okay? Because remember, they're muscles too within the digestive tract, right? So in order to help you have what's called peristalsis and have this wave that goes through your digestive tract, you still need that contraction. Well, your electrolytes are intimately involved in that as well, okay? So either high or low levels of electrolytes can result in diarrhea, constipation, cramping, or hemorrhoids. Specifically cramping, because when you start to get a stiffening because you're not getting enough of the electrolytes and therefore you're in balance or you're out of balance. Next, bone pains. So very high calcium levels, again called hyperkalemia or hypercalcemia, okay, can result in bone fractures, painful kidney stones, vomiting, and constipation. The same condition can also make you feel tired, weak, and have, trouble concentrating. Now, confusion, dizziness, or irritability can also result when your sodium levels rise too drastically, called hypernatremia. Okay, this can happen also if you overdo it on certain things like water and these types of things. Okay, you can become dizzy and weak. When this worsens, it's possible to become even more delirious and experience a seizure or coma. Okay, so again, you don't obviously want to overdo certain things, because you can remember, I mean, there are people that you can actually die from drinking too much water. Keep those things in mind, right? So let's talk about how to solve electrolyte imbalance. All right, so let's run through this. Number one, adjust your diet. Okay, again, it sounds simple, but you got to do it. Okay, a poor diet that's high in processed foods and contains lots of sodium is obviously gonna, throw off your electrolytes, again, your magnesium, potassium levels, and can cause a dangerous imbalance. Okay, so you want to focus on, obviously, the whole foods, unpackaged foods, plenty of vegetables and fruits that provide good potassium and good magnesium levels. And again, magnesium is a big thing, so you got to make sure you get enough of that. So, taking in things like coconut water, okay, celery, watermelon, cucumber, kiwi, bell peppers, citrus fruits, carrots, cultured dairy, pineapple, all these things have electrolytes in it, but they're also great for just hydration in general. So for athletes as well, if you want to hydrate, take a look at that stuff as well. Number two, monitor your sodium intake. So when you do consume, packaged or processed foods, check the sodium levels. A lot of those packaged foods have really high sodium levels in the body. Now, think about it for a second. Like, here's how sodium works within the body. Okay, so essentially, water follows salt. Okay, just think about that. Water follows salt, which means that if you increase sodium too much, water retention also occurs. Okay, so at the same time, the opposite is also true. So a loss in sodium results in a loss in water, potentially causing dehydration and eventually extreme thirst. So you have to kind of keep those things in mind. Again, everything in balance. You can't overdo something because it can affect something else. Number three, drink enough water, but again, not too much. We just talked about that. Why, you want to drink, water throughout the day, but you don't want to overdo the water either, again, because it can lead to, various problems. Now, if you practice vigorous exercise, especially in warm or hot weather that increases sweat production, then make sure you replenish with plenty of water. But again, hydration is not just about drinking water. It's about having the electrolytes as well. This is why those other things that I talked about, like coconut water and those types of things, those tend to have the electrolytes to hydrate you. Hydration is not just about water. Yes, you need water, but you also need electrolytes just as much as you need the water. Keep that in mind, okay? Keep that in mind. So coconut waters, those types of things. A lot of people drink Gatorade. Gatorade doesn't really have, it has a few electrolytes, but doesn't have a lot, but it has a lot of sugar. So I wouldn't really recommend Gatorade. I would stick more with the coconut waters and those types of things. Those are great. Number four, check your medications. So if you're on antibiotics, diuretics, hormone pills, blood pressure pills, cancer treatments, all these types of things, again, can, lead to electrolyte imbalances, okay? And, it is also possible to develop electrolyte imbalances due to hormonal interactions from antidiuretic hormone medications, aldosterone and thyroid hormone. Okay, so if you've started on a new medication or supplement and you notice changes in your mood, changes in your energy, your heartbeat, stuff like that, talk to your doctor, find, and see, if there's an issue, especially if you're on a medication, that type of thing. Obviously, you want to check with your doctor to make sure that you're not throwing something off. Number five, refuel after exercise. Again, this goes back to hydration, okay? Drinking the water, drinking the electrolytes. That's key, very key, okay? But you've got to replace the water and the sodium after the workout to reestablish normal body water levels. Number six, and the final one, consider supplementing, okay? Again, this is what we talk about on this show, how important the supplements are. My suggestion, obviously, if you are especially if you're active, you're sweating a lot. You have to remember, again, I've always talked about it on this show, sweat is not just, it's not just, sweat is a soup, basically. Think about it, okay? It's a soup. It's not just what your body's detoxing. It's also the minerals that are coming out as well, okay? It's a whole soup of all these things that are coming out. So you have to replenish them. So a great way to replenish them is by supplementing, okay? So if you supplement every single day, multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement, a powder or something like that, even smoothies to get as much nutrition as you can, that can help to replenish everything you need. Very, very important. That, on top of all the other stuff we've just talked about, should help to keep things in balance. So, again, just things to think about overall as far as electrolytes and keeping them in balance. You really want to pay attention to this, because if you start noticing signs and symptoms that we've talked about, then you have to kind of be a little bit of a detective in this type of thing, and work with that. Obviously, if you feel something really bad, then yes, you run to your doctor, your hospital, you get that checked out. Okay, but if you're feeling weird, or if you're feeling weird on a regular basis, make sure you're hydrating and you're getting your electrolytes in check. Very, very important. All right, guys. Next, from Wellness Resources, we're going to take a look at a great supplement from them. This is kind of a spotlight. It's the GI and Muscle Helpers Nutritional Power. So let's talk about GI and Muscle Helper. Okay, so first of all, GI and Muscle Helper is an outstanding product with 3 uniquely combined ingredients. We have glutamine, we have N-acetyl D-glucosamine, and we have fructooligosaccharides. And we're going to talk about each one. But the benefits of these 3 nutrients reach even further as they affect your bones, they affect cartilage, they affect your satiety, your metabolism, your heart health, your blood sugar management, and much more. So let's talk about each one, okay? So glutamine, why is glutamine important? So when it comes to gut health and intestinal lining integrity, glutamine is the most important amino acid required for the gut lining. It works together with butyrate, which is a short chain fatty acid, to continually repair the intestinal lining. And that's what you want. You want repair. Because if you're not repairing, you're going to have all kinds of intestinal problems, which will lead to a lack of being able to digest any kind of nutrients. Now, glutamine also supports muscle tissue recovery, okay? So during higher demands such as physical exercise or illness, glutamine is rapidly used for cellular metabolism, pH balance, immune activity, and tissue repair, okay? It contributes to 1/3 of your body's nitrogen supply of these metabolic activities, okay? So let's go over the additional physiological benefits, which include glutamine helps to regulate blood vessel homeostasis, as they are a type of muscle. It helps to support activity of bone and cartilage building cells. It helps to provide energy for heart muscle cells and mitochondria. It aids in insulin production. It supports fasting and blood sugar management. It provides a reserve supply of energy and fuel to your brain during low blood sugar states, and it helps to support cardiac, muscle, and mitochondrial energetics. Glutamine provides essential material and fuel for repair and high energy demands. Where do you get it? You can get it from meat, poultry, eggs, dairy, and fish, which are the richest sources of glutamine, okay? For best results, you want to take glutamine between meals because it's absorbed much better that way. All right, next, let's take a look at the second ingredient in GI and Muscle Helper. That's NAG, which is N-acetyl-glucosamine, or we'll call it NAG for short. Not like your mother-in-law, nag. Little joke. All right, so NAG is the second nutrient found in GI and Muscle Helper. NAG is a precursor to hyaluronic acid, which makes and supports synovial fluid levels in your joints. Very important for those of you who are worried about arthritis, right? In your digestive tract, NAG combines with mucin to form a protective barrier and provides lubrication to the mucosal barrier in the gut. It is also used by other moisture-rich barriers like your eyes and your urogenital tract. NAG provides the material necessary for hydration and lubrication that is essential for protecting your joints, your skin, your eyes, and your mucosal barriers, right? We've talked about your mucosal barriers. We've talked about the mucosal lining and why it's always important to protect those. Well, we know now that NAG will do that. Now, NAG is also, a lot of people don't know this, it's a lectin blocker, okay? What is lectin? Lectin is what's in wheat, right? And lectin can be a pro-inflammatory compound in wheat. A lot of it, many times for many people, lectins can induce intestinal irritation and other concerns, okay? But NAG is a lectin blocker. So it binds to wheat germ compounds, okay, wheat germs basically, and it helps to block the lectin immune response caused by ingestion of wheat and other grains. So if you think you may be having a problem with lectins, this can help that. And by the way, NAG is commonly derived from shellfish. And then we'll take a look at the third ingredient in GI and muscle helper, that is the prebiotic fructooligosaccharides. I've talked about it on this show before. So it's a prebiotic that is naturally beneficial carbohydrate or fiber, okay? And so it helps with the gut bacteria. So you have to remember what a prebiotic is, right? Prebiotic is basically the food for the probiotic, okay? So the prebiotics, what the probiotic feeds on to help to keep proliferating, okay? So, gut bacteria feed on FOS to provide immune modulating effects that aid in the management of inflammatory conditions, okay? These reactions affect blood pressure, cholesterol, weight and metabolism, immune integrity, and much, much more. FOS and other prebiotic fibers increase the production of short-chain fatty acids, like, again, butyrate, which are essential for maintaining an intact intestinal barrier and are crucial for the immunoendocrine regulation and gut-brain axis. So you're seeing a theme here with this, right? Again, you're protecting the gut lining and the gut-brain axis. You're producing the short-chain fatty acids, okay? And then you're also helping the gut bacteria. So it's it's comprehensive. Now, researchers found recently that individuals who consume 21 grams a day of fructooligosaccharides or other prebiotic fiber-rich foods were found to have lower levels of leptin and ghrelin. This is your satiety and your hunger hormone and your satiety hormones, right? So they experienced increased satiety with the prebiotics as well as lower hunger levels. In addition, FOS and other prebiotic fibers were shown to increase energy expenditure or faster metabolism, leading to a healthier body composition. This is good, okay? Again, if you're a person who works out, you're looking at losing weight, this is something you can take a look at. And of course, fiber is essential for the production and sustenance of beneficial bacteria as well. So yet dietary fiber and prebiotic-rich foods are woefully lacking in the American diet. Now, experts recommend at least 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories consumed. Again, 14 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories consumed. So if you consume a 2,000 calorie per day diet, for example, you want to strive for roughly 30 grams of fiber per day. Most people are not getting that. Just, it's that simple. Most people are just not getting Most people are not getting enough fiber. Again, so, GI and muscle helper is one way you can correct that problem. Another way you can get your fiber, I've talked about it before. You can get yourself a fiber supplement from your favorite health food store. A lot of them come in powders. Many of them come in tasteless powders. You can put it in your smoothie, put it on your oatmeal, get your fiber that way. Another way you can do it is get ground flax. That's kind of helps with fiber as well. It's kind of it's a fiber in there as well that helps things move. It's very anti-inflammatory. Okay, eat fiber-rich foods, as much fiber-rich foods as you can. Why? Because if you're dealing with a lot of constipation, you're dealing with all different types of intestinal conditions where you're not flowing properly, you're not going to the bathroom, you're not regular. This can mean you're not taking in enough fiber, okay? And this could lead to a lot of other major type things, including higher risk for colon cancer, different things like that. So fiber is extremely important. Again, 30 grams of fiber, aim for that if you can. You can get a lot of fiber in the fruits as well. Even in some smoothies, you can get the fibers as well. So many different ways to do it, but you gotta make sure you get the fibers. Very, very important. So, but GI and Muscle Helper, fantastic supplement for those of you who want to take a look at that. Go to Wellness Resources website. You can go there at myvitaminresource.com. You can type in GI and Muscle Helper, or just type in, digestion, supplements for digestion. Many ways you can get to it. But it's a great supplement if you want to take care of your gut, help repair your gut and boost your overall health. And you can, if you've got overall gut health issues, 3 supplements you can take a look at from Wellness Resources. GI and Muscle Helper is one. You can also take a look at their Superdophilus, which is, again, probiotics, great. And then they also have Digestive Helper, which is digestive enzymes, okay? So you take your digestive enzymes before the meal, okay? I'd say 10 to 15 minutes before the meal, or you can take it during or after too, but I always suggest before to kind of help with the digestion in general. You can take your fiber with the meal, and then take your probiotics in between your meals, okay? So again, one more time, just to make sure everybody's got this, okay? Before the meal, you got your digestive enzymes. During the meal, you have your fiber, and then in between your meal, you have your probiotics. Okay, great combination to keep your digestion in check. Okay, so check it out. I think this is good stuff for you guys to really keep in the back of your mind. At the end of the day, we're doing everything we can. We got a lot of great information in today. But I think it's good stuff for you overall, especially coming to the holidays, because we all know that we like crazy in the holidays and we end up with a lot of intestinal bloating and that type of thing. And want to try to keep that in check, right? So these are great ways to do that. All right, guys, that's it for this week. Thank you so much. Again, know that I appreciate every single one of you that spends time and, who are kind of interested in this stuff. We got a lot of healthcare practitioners who listen in, and a lot of doctors who listen in. Thank you so much. And of course, if you have any questions, well, you can contact me at wellnesstalk@protonmail.com, and or just go to the website and type in the information there. But either way, I appreciate you. Know that I love going through this information with you every single day. It's just it's a labor of love for me. And thank you to all those who support this show on a regular basis. All right, until next week, guys, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, control your health. Take care.